Hello and welcome to this surprise bonus stream, the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel, where we always have the top cuts of gammon to bowl bouncers at. How you doing, Erica? Is the Twitch stream not working? I mean, I've had that problem on the other channel, but it looked like the Twitch was working this time. Okay, let's get started with some Geoguessr. Oh, okay. We're in Mexico. That was easy. That sign says Alto, and there is only one Spanish-speaking country to my knowledge where the sign does not say either stop or pare, and that's Mexico, where it says Alto. To be fair, I have not actually seen a Guatemalan, Salvadoran, Nicaraguan stop sign. Maybe they also say Alto, but pare is certainly the most common in the Spanish-speaking world. Wait, can I not get out of the grounds of this? Oh, very cute dog. I had a dog like that some time ago as well. Can we get at least a name of this church that we don't get to leave? What are we, a ghost? Is this do we have to like find where we died in order to respawn? The full stop from my end seems to be the official Metamucil of Restream. You gotta be okay, so this is all I get. I get this churchyard. Puesto de lotería. Okay. Well, fuck. Okay, it's someplace in Mexico. No. Okay. There we go. That was actually Costa Rica. So, we now know that in Costa Rica, they also say Alto on the stop signs. 1,433 points. Only 1,158 miles off. Okay. Residential area. Looks European. Service pétrolier, okay. Matic, Service pétrolier. Okay, great name for your oil services company. Wait, city airport it says. It's an airport shuttle, I guess. Acna. Are in a Cité Le Passage. Yeah, we are Garage Diderot. Avenue Barbe. Okay, we are definitely in a European French-speaking jurisdiction. Avenue Diderot. Water tower. It says toute direction, which is a bit confusing because that is une seule direction. Pizza ben chippy. Pizza with a Hebrew name. A pizza that is the son of a chippy. Oh, there shouldn't be pizza bat chippy. Okay. Le Parisien. Okay. I'm guessing we must be in Clos-Monceleux. Never heard of it. Oh, hello, Ludlow. How you doing? Oh, what's the restream doing to me now? Wonder if it's something to do with the fact that I actually had both of my streaming channels open to make sure that they were on. That would have been taking up a little bit of bandwidth anyway. Okay, we are in a very residential area. And now we're in a high-res residential area. Okay, well, an élève is somebody who is in school or somebody who is a student of a master of some discipline. Whereas an étudiant would be like someone who's studying at university. So, yes, there is an important distinction. Okay. Wants me to yield, but it won't yield information back. Although, I mean, I saw an advert for a newspaper called Le Parisien, which suggests to me that we are probably in Paris. In, like, some very residential suburb of it. Coiffure visagiste, maquillage professionnel. Like, Clos-Monceleux. I've never heard. Okay, Monceleux. Orly, Noisy-le-Grand. If this is Paris, I think it is way on the edge of the town. Montmorency. There's also a Montmorency in Montreal. Crespierre, Aubergenville, Verneuil-sur-Seine, Monceleux. Maybe it was. Well, hopefully my cutting down on the bandwidth I've got coming in saison culturelle, centre culturel Geoguessr, Vipente, Viepaint. Okay. There's road work going on. Thank you. Picked this up at the Anarchist Book Fair in London a few years back. Okay. Direction. Ah, shit, we were just here. No, we weren't. We were at a place very similar. Tabarnak. No, wait a second, because there was this high resolution area. What's that? Yeah, okay. We've just gone in a big fucking circle. Okay, only 11 miles off. That's better than last time. 49.39. That's more like it. Okay, this looks like Britain to me. Britannia Pharmacy. Just in case I needed some confirmation. And it says slow, but it does not say Araf. So we are not in Wales. We are in England or Scotland. Bramingham Primary School and Bramingham Park Church. Never heard of Bramingham. That means nothing. Britain is full of places nobody's heard of, including people living in the same fucking county. As is pretty much every country except maybe Liechtenstein or like fucking San Marino, because it's just too small not to know pretty much everything. Huckleberry Close. Oregon Way. That's random. Okay, so we are in some English housing estate in a place called Bramingham. Whose buses are these? Just says bus stop. That's fucking useless. Thank you very much for nothing, bus stop. Woodmere app. Ah, shit. Okay, let me just pull up Restream. Ah, well, okay. Restream says quality's excellent. So maybe this is something to do with YouTube. I need a name of a local authority area. Hell. That is unfortunate. Burford Close. Oh wait, what's this? What do we got here? A corner shop. That's... Oh, hold on. Barton Hill Convenience. Okay. It's another place I've never actually heard of. Luton, that is easily one of the worst airports in Europe. At least that I've been to. Okay. Oh, hold on. Bin. Now, the home bins that have the local authority's name on it. Bramingham Wood. Woodland Trust, Bramingham Wood. Hell. Come on, give me something. Give me an A road at least. If I get an A road, I can begin to work out where this is, because those are on a spoke system based on what part of London they eventually arrive at. So the first digit kind of tells you which spoke it's on, which part of London it's eventually going to be on. Alderson ingredients. Hola, Anwar Yaguara, ¿cómo estáis? Well, hello. Good to see you. Denmark close. School, that's going to be that Birmingham primary or whatever. So that tells us nothing. Un abrazote a vos también, po. Buenas noches. Okay. No pedestrian access. Whitefield. Little People's at Whitefield. I've had more informative signs in my day on Geoguessr. Igualmente, siempre bueno verte. Okay, we seem to be moving into an area that, oh, hello, we've got Borough Council. Does that say, I think that says Luton. I think that's Luton Borough Council. Caddington, Barton le Clay, Streetley, Little Awfully. That's when something is like, that's an adverb for when something is slightly suspicious. He said it, but he said it a little awfully. Breachwood Green, Awfully Who. Houghton Regis, Barnfield College, Biscuit, Birmingham. There we go. It is Luton. Oh, wait. What? Okay. Hello, Hugh. Welcome. Okay. Has he said something about me recently? Because the one time he tried to have a go at me that I know of was well, it was months ago. It might have even been last year. Has he had another go? Birmingham, Sainsbury's petrol station, Marsh Farm. There we go. Whitefield Primary Academy. For those not in the know who aren't familiar with British education system, an academy is a charter school, or in Chile, un colegio particular subvencionado. It's basically a way for private companies to make money off of fucking what is supposedly public education. Luton. Yes. Well, that's as good an endorsement as they come. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Where are you joining us from, Hugh? Birmingham? Lee Manor? Vape Bar? Whitefield Primary Academy. Russell's Way. There's Denmark Close. Whitehorse Vale. 1,129 yards. Oh, hello from Georgia. where they're fighting against Cop City. Been paying attention to that to the extent I could from afar. Okay, we've got barbed wire, and that looks like, yeah, that is an airport taxiway, and on the other side we've got cows. A collection of cows. As in all the best airports. Now I'm gonna have to check to see if the Muppet has said some more shit about me. Futsal. Yeah, not actually sure what I'm looking at just now. Igor, как дела? Yeah, India is certainly a possibility. I mean, it's definitely someplace not far from the equator. I mean, all these palm trees, very subtropical vibe going on here. And that is the flag of Malaysia. Okay. Some minor airport in Malaysia that comes with cows. Yeah, I mean, I saw a flag that I'm pretty sure is the Malaysian flag. Kedai Internet, okay, that is Malay, or it could be Indonesian, but that flag wasn't Indonesian. But yeah, definitely not North America. Bapak Burger. Bapak Burger. Oh, hello. Padan Lalang. Pantai Kok. Gunung Raya, Ulu Melaka. Yeah, we are in someplace. Let me see. Ulu Melaka. U2, 114, 112, 112. Those are the roads. Okay, J, E. Yeah, but it looked like only one runway. Yeah, definitely that was a jet. I couldn't make out the markings. Okay, we're looking 112 and 114. That wasn't U2, that's 112. C19, C133. One. Taiping. Penang. $261, $196, $153, 119. That's T119. Channel. $11. Yeah, okay, those definitely are 112. Oh, and there's a boat. It's coastal. Hold on. Kua and Kedawang. Pahang Chukai. No. Malacca. Okay. Seems more zooming is required to get these 3-digit numbers. 142, 129. 181, 103. A123. A roads, A12. That doesn't help me. Permatang. Tikambatu. R roads. And that already brings us to Thailand. 134, 196, 211. Looking for 112 and 114. With no letters in front of them. Three, 6, 8, 5. Okay, that's 1, 4. One, okay, those are T. 124. 126. 101. 183. 12. 2488. 3. 1393. 212. Come on, you gotta give me. And that's Singapore, which this isn't. One. M112. I'm gonna say it's somewhere near Malacca. $336 miles. Oh, hell. 3481. And where are we? Tush Kagazdar. We're in Kyrgyzstan. Tush Kyrgyzstar Dukanu. Magazina bu Obayev. Santechnika Dukanu. Yeah, this is Kyrgyzstan. Computer dictu stando. Lactar boyoctor vodo emulsialar. Vodo emulsialar, water emulsions? Okay. Бытовая техника. Тирчилик техника с. Beko, I had one of their washing machines. Finanskreditbank. Remont, okay, repair shop. Yeah, this is someplace in Kyrgyzstan. I was just in Osh the other day. Yeah, I mean, like, literally the first time I'd ever been taken to Kyrgyzstan by Geoguessr was a couple of days yesterday, in fact. I have a feeling that their coverage is probably going to be very major city-centric. The last time it was Osh. Well, no, it wasn't Osh, it was, what was it? Bishkek. It was Bishkek. So, we might be near Bishkek. We might also not be... Oh, hold on. That looked like election propaganda. Can we get in close enough to see who it is and what they... Nah. Love an election placard, because you can usually work out what constituency they're standing in if you've got one. Oh, wait. I didn't notice that. Usually they're pixelating out the car flags. I mean, the number plates. Actually, it occurs to me that I don't actually know what the modern Kyrgyzstan flag looks like. Oh, hold on. That looked like there might have... No, that's laundry. I was hoping that that might actually be signs when I saw it very fleetingly. Kids standing around on the pavement. Lots of them. Ah. Oh, okay. Neat looking flag. Crystal. Still, dentist's office. Ooh. Okay, a mosque. Do we have a name of the mosque? No. Автосервис Пантера. Компьютерная диагностика по европейскому стандарту. Injector washing. Yeah. Oh, hold on. That looks like a bus. Oh, and we've got a sign saying what we're near. Aravan Lidijan Andijan Aravan Airport Osh. Okay, we are not far from Osh. Okay. Arcade. Zbudo. Chetpulak. Shabdan. Okay. And now, where the hell was Osh? Because I thought I was in Bishkek, but I thought it was Osh yesterday. Garagayna, Chanach. Mailisu. I feel like it was in the west. Yes. Ah, there it is. That was confusing, mate. Osh Airport, and what were the other places we're looking at? Andijan, Aravan. It's 5 kilometers from the international airport. Avant-garde Clinica Sur. .5 miles. Nearblach. 4981, and we are 19831 because I fucked up the first one. Okay. I think in honor of having somebody show up specifically on the strength of Caleb Muppet not liking me, we're going to have to look at Caleb Muppet discussing his absolute ass blast of a book, BreadTube Serves Imperialism with Jimmy Dore. Get that audio output up. Fuck off, adverts.
I'm here with Caleb.
Cinema mode. Okay.
Maupin. He's a widely acclaimed speaker, writer, journalist, and political analyst. He has
widely acclaimed.
Traveled extensively in the Middle East and Latin America. He was involved with the Occupy Wall Street movement from its early planning stages and has been...
I mean... See, anyone who is still talking about how they were important in Occupy Wall Street in this year of 2022, I that is like, That is one of the biggest grifter tells around. Like, everybody I've seen who starts out, who makes a point of telling you how important they were in Occupy, like fucking Micah White, I mean, then they go on to say, yes, and what I'm doing, hanging out with rich, powerful ghouls in Davos is it's revolutionary praxis, and you need to send me your money, and I'm gonna start a boutique fucking activism consultancy. Yeah, I mean,
Involved in many struggles for social justice. He is an outspoken advocate of international friendship and cooperation, as well as a 21st century socialism. Please welcome Caleb Mupp, and thanks for being here, Caleb.
oh, he's reading this right off of. He's reading it off of the fucking blurb of the book, which I believe Muppet actually wrote himself.
Sure.
Now I want to talk about your book here. Here's your book, Breadtube Serves Imperialism. Explain. Now I don't know most of the people in this book.
That is the best. That's look. He's grinning already a little bit because he knows this is ideal. The only way that book make even begins, you could even begin to take it seriously as a work of journalism, is if you had absolutely no idea who any of the people in it were, because I mean what he says is just such complete nonsense.
I was going to know everybody. I don't know any of them. So tell people what BreadTube is, and then tell people how they serve imperialism.
Oh, this will be good because he never gets around to explaining that bit in the book. This should be good. Okay.
Well, I got kind of sucked in. I was asked to debate somebody, and so somebody wanted to debate me about socialism. So I debated this character, Destiny Stephen Bennell, and we had quite an interesting debate about socialism.
And I mean, the idea of including him in BreadTube remains just completely ridiculous because he, like, literally has open contempt for the online left. You could not, I mean, he is not somebody, you put him in there specifically because A, he doesn't like Caleb Maupin, and B, he has positions that are easy to demolish because he's just a right-wing liberal asshole.
And it was very odd. And so then from there, I was sucked into this internet subculture, this internet universe that presents itself as left-wing, that presents itself as socialist or Marxist or anarchist, but is really just a way to rile up young people who associate with progressive causes, anti-racism, workers' rights, and get them supporting the U.S. political establishment against the right wing.
Wait a second. Yeah, remind me of what Jimmy Dore's position on the U.S. elections was again. I mean, because I have this feeling that Jimmy Dore was supporting the U.S. political establishment against certain elements of the right wing, except for the elements of the right wing that he outright platforms and doubles down on supporting.
So the more I kind of observed this internet subculture, these people are getting hundreds of thousands, millions of views. They're being promoted by the New Yorker magazine. And they're speaking in the
Which one? Who's promoted by the New Yorker magazine?
Of Marxism and socialism and leftism. But the essence of what they say is that the United States and U.S. imperialism, they are the good guys against, these authoritarian regimes.
Oh, yeah, citation fucking needed. I mean, yeah. And this is where it's handy to have, like, Vosh and Destiny in there. Because Destiny certainly believes that bullshit. Although one of the great things that we looked at this, his debate with Destiny, my favorite part of it is how he thought that with his, like, whole right-wing nationalist shtick, how he says the Pledge of Allegiance and is really, horny for the American flag and all this shit. He thought that he was totally, he thought that was, like, A material to bring to Destiny. And Destiny's like, yeah, actually, I'm not too big on nationalism. I mean, white nationalism he's kind of cool with. I mean, he defended fucking Kyle Rittenhouse. But, yeah. So, I mean, that was a hilarious moment. But, yeah, I mean, apart from Vosh and Destiny, who are two people who basically everybody else he lists in the book as a person in BreadTube does not like, has had like outright conflict with, because of their both of their reactionary ideological positions on all sorts of things. You can't find anyone who actually says that shit. Like, there is a criticism to be made, and actually people who are definitely in BreadTube have made it, like that they really don't talk enough about U.S. imperialism and geopolitics and things like that, which does leave the field open for chuds like this. And you could say that that is doing a favor to imperialism. But the idea that they're all describing the U.S. as the good guy against some vague concept of authoritarianism is just nonsense.
Around the world, they're spreading freedom. They say that socialism is just an employee stock ownership program. They don't.
First of all, no, that's actually not true. Except maybe Vosh believes that. I mean, fuck knows what Vosh actually believes. It seems to change fairly regularly. But yeah, see, the thing to remember about Caleb Muppet is that when he actually describes his proposals, I mean, in the book he claims that everybody on BreadTube just wants worker co-ops within capitalism. Now it's employee stock ownership, which I guess you could say, I mean, that a co-op is a form of that within capitalism, but yeah. But his proposals are even less than that. His are just some, like, weak as piss, like, New Deal liberalism. I mean, he doesn't even address the issue of workers maybe actually owning the means of production in some sense or other.
They don't question the rule of profits. They just want to kind of experiment with worker cooperatives, basically. It's pretty clear that they are getting propped up by one wing of the establishment. Now, in the book, I go into...
yeah, it's so clear that he couldn't find any evidence of it happening. I mean, his book completely lacks any attempt at providing evidence of it happening. He has this method that he uses where what he does is he will pile largely fairly, like, a lot of factual statements, many of which are actually sort of reasonably factually accurate. Some of them are complete bullshit. Like, he said quite a few things so far that are just made up. But a lot of the time it'll be something accurate. Like in the book he says, you know, Frank Kitson, general in the British paratroopers unit, he incorrectly calls him a British intelligence officer, but he was in the paratroopers, the paras, responsible amongst other things for Bloody Sunday and quite a few things, had this idea about counter gangs. And the idea was that you have groups that are actually under control of your occupation forces, you know, in his case, the British military, that are totally dependent on them, that are actually in some cases organizational subdivisions, but they look like independent things, and you use them to engage in the conflict without actually appearing to engage in the conflict. Death squads, basically, a lot of the time. And so he semi-accurately points that out, and then just moves on to something completely unrelated, and the idea is, this concept exists, therefore this must be happening with BreadTube, even though he doesn't provide any actual evidence that any segment of the ruling class is actually involved in any of this.
The evidence of that. But then we have further evidence of that, thanks to the...
Further? I mean, usually the word further means that there already was evidence.
Work of Max Blumenthal and the Gray Zone. We now know that one of these voices, Abigail Thorne, was directly being subsidized by the British government.
Again, I mean, see, the thing about BreadTube is, since it isn't an actual organization, there's no formal organization that you can call BreadTube. It's a Reddit thread, and there's some people who are kind of considered to be part of it, not considered part of it, and it's all very amorphous, first of all. And so whether you consider Abigail Thorne BreadTube or not is already a pretty open question. But the thing is, there's what he did not, and it's true that Blumenthal found that a British state science organization gave her a platform to discuss her work against like anti-vaxxer bullshit. What he did not have is any evidence that they were actually directing the content, that there was any video that they specifically controlled the content of, or that there was an ongoing financial relationship. He didn't find any of that. It was just totally misrepresented.
By foundations tied to USAID and to the British royal family and such. So, what I said in the book, based on estimates, right? Based on some of the people in the
based on making shit up,
background advising them that I heard about and other things, has now been pretty well confirmed. These folks are basically some kind of psyop.
Really, that has been confirmed because, the thing is that usually when he's defended his book, his thing is he will say, I never said that they were being run by the CIA. He strongly implies it in the book. It would be very difficult to walk away from the book as it is written, which has literally no citations in it. There's a list of literature at the end, but he doesn't cite any of it. And it's not even clear that he read any of what's in the back of the book. But he's always wiggled away from the strong implication that he made that this was a psyop without any evidence. He still hasn't got any. Is at the most that's like one person who is sort of peripheral to BreadTube or was given a platform to discuss work they already did. That's it. That's the whole thing. And now he's saying, well, now it's just proof that they're a psyop. I mean, yeah, by this standard, I could easily, you could just basically claim anything. And, Jimmy Dore is there for it. I mean, this is the guy who they had, a white supremacist paramilitary member from the Boogaloo Boys on. Also connected with Caleb Muppet in his Stop the Lies video, which is just advertising his new book mostly. The same white supremacist paramilitary member who was platformed by Jimmy Dore endorses the works of Caleb Muppet. And Jimmy Dore did not... there was tons of evidence that this guy was just a literal fucking neo-Nazi. Jimmy Dore did not actually challenge him on any of his complete bogus claims when he was on there, and took no interest in all the evidence of where this guy actually stood that he platformed and made look like such a cool guy on his show. So I'm sure we're going to get some really critical interviewing here.
To get young people that have socialistic or anti-imperialist instincts and get them to serve the empire.
So you're saying there's evidence to back this up.
Well, and you, as the interviewer, this would be a good time for you to ask what the evidence to back this up is.
There are YouTubers in the political lefty space, and a lot of them. You're saying a lot, not just, but a lot of them, and they're called BreadTube, and you're saying that those people are somehow being co-opted by the intelligence communities to push an agenda?
Okay, this will be interesting because every time somebody criticizes him and points out that this was his strong implication, he says, I never said that in the book. But this time he's already said that it's a psyop. So is this going to be the time where he goes mask off and says, yes, this is exactly what he's saying, and essentially risks libel at that point?
Sure. I mean, I received quite a bit.
Sure, yeah, he actually said it. His book contains literally no attempt at proving this. There is literally no attempt at establishing that there is any relationship at all between any intelligence service and any member of even the weird expanded blob version of BreadTube that he's made up for the purposes of his book. He's never made any attempt to prove any of this. and he knows perfectly well that he hasn't, which is why he's always wiggled out of saying it. But now here he is saying, yeah, okay, that, and just say, yes, that is what he's saying. He is claiming that all of the people he claims are part of BreadTube have an active relationship with the intelligence services.
Bit of information about who is advising them. There's an individual who's tied to military psychiatrists who appeared on CNN calling for mass deprogramming of the country after January 6th.
Okay, that's Steve Hassan. And connected is an interesting way of putting it. I mean, the main thing that see, when he says they're connected with the CIA, what happened is Steve Hassan, when he was in university, got caught up in the Moonies, which was, is a right-wing cult operated by South Korean intelligence and a reverend by the name of Moon Sun-myung. And so he got out of that cult and ended up in something called the Cult Awareness Network, which was about letting people know what evil fucks these Moonies were and helping people get out of them and helping families get people, their loved ones back who had been sucked into these cults. So, like, literally what he does, and he acknowledges all this in the book, which is really remarkable, because literally the one thing you can say is that he was once, like, half a century ago, in a cult that there's fairly good evidence was a CIA psyop, and he spent the rest of his life trying to get people out of that cult. And this is the proof that he is CIA connected, and that doesn't even begin to, I mean, he didn't establish that he was advising anyone in BreadTube. He said so. He made some claims about one person he considered to be part of BreadTube talking with this guy. And then he said, well, you couldn't say for sure that other members of BreadTube aren't also under the wing of this great Jewish Svengali Steve Hassan, because he is Jewish. Somehow, anytime, as Sophie from Mars has said, whenever Caleb Maupin points his finger, there's a Jew on the other end of it. So, yeah. So that is what he's talking about with this CIA-connected shit. I mean, and Jimmy Dore is just gonna lap it right up.
And there are other things that point to some kind of covert support. The mainstream media highlighting some of these people and
which of these people and highlighting how? Because, see, there's this guy. There's this guy. He used to be really important in Occupy Wall Street. You see, he, to the extent that you could call him Occupy Wall Street affiliated state media. And he has this wonderful, like, masturbatory bio of himself on his website and in a video form on his YouTube channel, which highlights how he was promoted and spoken of in glowing terms by mainstream corporate media. And I'm sure it will shock you at this point to know that Occupy Wall Street state-affiliated media outlet was one Caleb T. Muppet.
Celebrating them. And then their foreign policy stances could come directly from CNN.
For example?
And then we have that great report that was done by the Gray Zone, and that all points to this. But the thing is, there's a press.
That all points to what? That all points to this. God. Hey, Jimmy, why didn't you ask him for an example of some of this that he's saying on your show?
Right? We often talk about the Congress for Cultural Freedom program, which was in the 1950s.
Okay. And therefore what?
The CIA realized that basically, if they wanted to hurt the left and hurt Marxists, one way to do it was to start funding certain voices. And you had the CIA set up Partisan Review magazine. You had the CIA.
Oh, well, they didn't set it up. They financed it. They were financing it, and it is not at all clear that the people who were making partisan review financing were actually witting about that.
Basically launch a whole program to subsidize left-wing voices that were anti-communist, that were against the Soviet Union, that were against China. And there's a long history of covert manipulation of left-wing voices,
Yeah, and isn't it interesting in this context that we have this guy who is getting promoted by, well, he has been promoted by mainstream media. He was literally an employee of state media for a capitalist state until very recently. And he has been constantly using all sorts of just off the hook bullshit in order to encourage leftists to move to the right.
Kind of presenting left-wing voices that are, in a way, acceptable to the establishment. And it was actually Irving Kristol, who was the director of the Congress for Cultural Freedom program for the CIA. He eventually became considered the ideological father of neoconservatism. But a lot of big names that one associates with the left, like Mary McCarthy, Hannah Arendt, Susan Sontag, they got their start with this CIA-funded publication. So there's a precedent for this kind of behavior. And during the Cold War...
Yes, the thing is there's a precedent for a lot of kinds of behavior. In fact, there's a precedent for the LaRouche movement that Caleb Muppet has very cordial relationships with. In fact, when the CPI, his new fucking think tank, had their big, ridiculous meeting in Austin, Texas recently, one of the people who got up and on the podium to speak was a representative of the LaRouche movement. And the fun thing about the LaRouche movement, apart from the fact that they are fascists, they are extremely anti-Semitic, and they think that everything is a conspiracy of the British royal family, is that they spent the first few decades of their existence compiling huge files on leftists in the US and elsewhere. And from documents that have become available over the past couple of decades, we know that they appear to have approached the CIA with their huge pile of documentation, of surveillance of leftists, and offered to become like sort of a subdivision of the CIA, to be like a subcontractor. And the CIA claims that they decided that the LaRouche people were unreliable, and that they knocked them back, supposedly. But yeah, so interesting people to be connected with when you're accusing leftists of all being CIA agents with literally no evidence.
This was done, yes.
So this isn't new. In fact, so this isn't new that the CIA, the intelligence communities, that they co-opt media and they fund media directly a lot of times, and to push an agenda, imperialistic, hegemonic agenda. This is not new. This isn't a crazy conspiracy theory. This has been.
Yeah, that's a nice little jump there. Because it's one thing to say that that the CIA has done things like what you're claiming before. It is quite another thing to say, therefore, that means that these specific people, for which no evidence has been presented implicating them in anything, are part of a similar operation for which also no evidence has been provided right now.
Been documented. Well, the church committee, that was in the 70s, and can you talk about that?
Sure, yeah. I mean, it became...
well, Jesus Christ, so you're not... I shouldn't be surprised that Jimmy Dore would not be challenging him, asking him for any citations, anything to back up any of the other stuff. He gives him that as a total softball. Why didn't you talk about some shit in the 1970s that you must have at some point read about? Let's see, how well he does on it.
revealed in the 1970s with the Church Committee. That was during the presidency of Jimmy Carter. You had a congressional committee that investigated the FBI and CIA, and they revealed a number of things, including Project Mockingbird, which was, the CIA's wing that was handling the media, as well as Project MK Ultra, which was about promoting hallucinogens and drugs.
Not promoting. Okay, I was about to say, one thing that we can be sure about is that he's going to say something ridiculous about MK Ultra. See, the way he presents MK Ultra, you'd think that the CIA was just making drugs available to leftists in hippie spaces, like anti-war spaces, in the 60s and 70s. MK Ultra was way more fucked up than that. I mean, this was a program they were trying to do, essentially brainwashing and mind control using surreptitiously administered hallucinogenic drugs. They did it to people, to U.S. soldiers in Vietnam. They did it to all sorts of just random people. Some people who were just like, they had been admitted to a psychiatric ward for just, for the kind of problems that get you admitted to a psychiatric ward. And they had had the misfortune to end up under the dubious care of somebody involved in the program, and they just filled up with drugs and completely fucking them up, and left a lot of them as just completely broken after that. Just, they completely destroyed their connection to reality. See, the idea was they wanted to break down people's connection to reality, break down their sense of self, and then try to build up a new sense of self that was totally consistent with what the CIA needed. That was the ultimate objective. They completely failed at that. What they actually did, they managed to completely wreck people, to totally destroy people's minds, like sometimes for life. But they never managed to actually get past that bit. They were only able to break people. So it was not just making drugs available to anti-war activists and hippies.
College campuses and into left-wing and radical spaces, and that there was all kinds of foul play. And again, this is documented.
It's documented.
Yeah.
Okay. See, if I were playing by Caleb Muppet rules, I could say that Caleb Muppet is actually seriously lowballing the CIA's culpability here. And why would a man like Caleb Muppet want to be whitewashing an operation like MK Ultra to turn it into just handing out some drugs to some anti-war activists? And, and that would already be more evidence than he has presented for his idea that BreadTube is controlled by the fucking CIA, that it's a psyop. That would be more actual direct evidence than he's provided for any of that, even though it isn't even really evidence of anything. But playing by his rules, I could go and say, well, Caleb Maupin really is intent on whitewashing MK Ultra. Why would he be doing that? Maybe he's a plant. I mean, and actually his entire behavior, there was a much better case to be made for that. And I'm not saying he is one, to be clear. Because I don't say that shit without some actual clear evidence. I'm saying, he's sus as fuck. That much is clear. But if you played by his rules, that would be enough to claim that he was a fucking agency plant.
Yeah, these are facts. These are historical facts. There are mainstream media articles about it. There are whole academic books that...
And I know he knows more about MK Ultra as well, because he has repeatedly referred to Naomi Klein's The Shock Doctrine. And in The Shock Doctrine, she discusses at great length these experiments that they did on people. People who had never consented, had no idea what the fuck was going on, thought they were just losing their minds for no reason. Jesus, I'm only 6 minutes into this thing? Fucking hell. Yeah, he has read at least some of that, and you can't get through, I think it's about the first 100 pages. She has a detailed description, because she uses it as a metaphor for this economic shock therapy, this neoliberal economic shock therapy. So he knows perfectly well, if he has read any more than the couple of pages he has occasionally cited from the shock doctrine, that MK Ultra was way more than just handing out some drugs.
Have been published about this kind of thing. And it's so sad that they've cultivated this atmosphere where if anyone says anything like this, they just go, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. That's a conspiracy. No, these are things that are acknowledged from the history. And based on these historical precedents of manipulating activists, manipulating left-wing voices, based on some of the people associated with BreadTube, and now based on that smoking gun we got from Gray Zone, it's pretty...
that which was not a smoking gun of any kind. Not for the claim you're making. It was I mean, aside from everything else, the reason Max Blumenthal was able to get it is because it was not actually in any way a secret document. Abigail Thorne's relationship with this, I forget what it was like science education organization in Britain, is a very public and open thing. And as far as anyone, including Max Blumenthal, has been able to document, it does not extend beyond showing up to talk about the material, the videos she's made debunking anti-vax bullshit.
Pretty clear what BreadTube is. It's an attempt to control the narrative and make sure that people who are interested in socialism and workers' rights and opposing the police state, that they, follow a certain foreign policy agenda. And there's nothing...
Okay, and what would you call it if somebody made a point of coming up with just absolutely fucking mind-boggling lies about political opponents in order to get people to stop listening to them? People who are interested in some kind of leftism but maybe don't actually understand enough about it to notice just how fucking dodgy all of this is. I mean, what would you call that? I mean, is that not... because that just seems like exactly the thing you're accusing them of, Caleb.
Nothing particularly scandalous about this. We should almost expect this kind of behavior at the end of the day, right? I mean, this is how they work. They try to craft discourse in their own way. What's interesting is that the primary activities
they're crafting discourse
of the BreadTube crowd seem to be about getting left-wing voices to kind of, participate in this partisan red state versus blue state fight.
Yeah, let's have some examples. I mean, you could not do a drinking game with Caleb Maupin and citation needed. Because you would be in fucking fulminant liver failure. I mean, we're only 7 minutes in.
And you, Jimmy, have been targeted ridiculously because, oh my goodness, you interviewed somebody from the Bugaloo Boys.
Bugaloo Boys. Yes, he platformed a Nazi who's also got a relationship with our man Caleb here, and let him just completely lie about his activities.
Oh my gosh, right? This cancel culture. Never talk to any Trump supporter. Never talk to anyone on the right.
Never platform any neo-Nazis. Never let them just lie about their shit. Never, let it's so terrible that cancel culture is criticizing major media personalities for uncritically just sort of nodding gormlessly along as literal neo-Nazis lie about their activities in order to whitewash their organization, which explicitly wants to start a fucking race war. I mean, what a fucking nightmare that cancel culture is coming with criticism.
This is a big part of this because they don't want an actual movement of the people from below, where you have people with different perspectives and different ideologies, different religious backgrounds. They don't want that. What they want is an army of foot soldiers to do the work of Joe Biden and protect Joe Biden from the Republicans.
Yeah, except, there's only one person in BreadTube that has actually really, that you could, I mean, even in the expanded version of BreadTube, where we ignore the fact that there are massive political and personal conflicts between Vosh and basically anyone else who could reasonably be considered part of BreadTube, even leaving that apart, that's like the one guy you can point to and say that. And he's an easy target because the man literally, it's amazing that you have, when he talks about any of this stuff, you begin to wonder if he's just even fucking literate. Because he manages not to know anything. Vosh is so shit at what he does, which happens to be one of the easiest things in the world, that he manages to make Caleb Maupin look good.
And if you can just, cancel anyone who's deemed "quote unquote" right wing, you can isolate people and make them loyal foot soldiers of one section of the ruling class.
So they did come back. So that's the biggest thing that they seem to want to shut down.
What platforming Nazis? Yeah, that's that's a thing. I have no problem going on the record and saying, yeah, that's definitely something I want to shut down. I want to shut down Nazis. I don't think there should be Nazis. I honestly don't give a shit if those Nazis are aligned with U.S. foreign policy or opposed to foreign policy, because I just don't fucking like Nazis. I'm not picking and choosing my Nazis the way some, like, fucking liberals or fucking Caleb Maupin do. I'm all for just crushing every single fucking one of them. And all of their organizations and all of their bases of support. Yeah, fuck them all. I have absolutely no problem with that accusation.
Is if, beating the establishment and the intelligence community, if somebody from the left and the right figure out that they have common enemies that they can work together against, that's what they have to demonize, like they did to me when I interviewed
the Nazi. And let him lie, and then did not show any kind of regret when it came out just how completely he had bamboozled you.
Boogaloo Boy, which, by the way, people still don't realize it, Boogaloo Boy, 100% different than Proud Boys. Boogaloo.
Oh, yeah, they're a different organization, but their ideology is pretty fucking similar.
Boys are the antidote to Proud Boys. Boogaloo.
No, they fucking aren't. In fact, I mean, what's ridiculous about this is that he knows perfectly well what he's saying is a lie, because people pointed out to him the receipts on what their common acquaintance amongst the Boogaloo Boys. Caleb Maupin looks like he's about to fucking blow a load. That they were actually white supremacists, that it was a complete lie, that this guy was a white supremacist, that it was a complete lie that he had had any connection with Black Lives Matter, that he had shown any support for it, and that he was outright calling for a race war. From his own fucking social media posts, it was well established, and people sent this stuff to Jimmy Dore, thinking at the time still that maybe he would listen, that maybe he would take this on board and say, oh wow, I kind of fucked up there. And no, he didn't. And here he is right now, lying. I mean, at this point, you really, it is very clear he knows better, because he has been provided with that information. And it was not like rumors. It was stuff from this guy's own fucking Facebook page. You could have found it out, Jimmy. You could have actually asked a single critical question, except you seem to be completely incapable of doing that.
Blue Boys are anti-imperialism, anti-cop, anti-Trump, anti-racist, and pro...
They're not anti-Trump, and they're certainly not anti-racist. They want a fucking race war. That's what Boogaloo means. You absolute drongo.
LGBTQ and pro-Black Lives Matter.
No, they're not pro-Black Lives Matter. They're pro-shooting at Black Lives Matter. They've kind of done some of that.
That's what Boogaloo Boys are, but... the breadtube people wanted to manipulate that and distort that into Boogaloo Boys are right-wing racist, just like Trump.
Yeah, just because the Boogaloo Boys themselves say all sorts of right-wing racist things and are calling for a race war. I mean, this idea, it's like the last person I heard trying to make the case that Boogaloo Boys were leftists was Tim Pool. But, I mean, they're literally, and I love how they're not mentioning this, that they are talking about a common acquaintance. This is not somebody, like, Caleb Maupin knows who this person is, because this person is in the Stop the Lies video he posted promoting his book.
Trump and Proud Boys and Nazis. That's what they wanted people to think, and it's
Well, like, and that's what the fucking Boogaloo Boys want people to think. That's what they tell the people about themselves, except when they go on the program of some complete doofus who just won't actually ask a single critical question, and then doubles down after he's provided with evidence that the guy he's talking to is a literal neo-Nazi.
the exact opposite. And that's why I trended on Twitter for 3 days straight.
Okay, for anyone who is keeping track, this is where Caleb Maupin started to just show absolute delight at this attempt to rehabilitate the white nationalist paramilitary group, the Boogaloo Boys. Not that Caleb Maupin is in any way connected to the far right, of course.
One time was because they have all their bots and everything coming out to try to create a false narrative.
To point out the guy's own social media posts, to point out what people who are actually in Black Lives Matter had to say about this guy in particular, to point out all the stuff that if you had simply Googled this motherfucker's name, you could have found out and asked him about, rather than just sort of nodding along as he just fucking blew sunshine up your ass.
That Jimmy Dore's working with Nazis instead.
Well, you were, and now you know it, and you're still lying about it.
Of Jimmy Dore is reaching out to working class libertarians who share a lot of the same goals of people on the
as Nazis,
progressive left, and we share a common enemy. And so they had to try to distort it. It's not. It works on some people. It certainly isn't helpful. But it's to a point where when people attack me that way, it actually does help me now.
Yeah, because at this point, anyone who actually looked at the information from this guy's Facebook page that you platformed, from the actual BLM activists in the area that he claims to have been providing security for BLM, to, all of that actual information that was mostly information generated by this Nazi himself, already selected out of your audience because they realize that you will just platform any asshole and you will be completely uncritical to them.
Because now they see the people who are doing those attacks, and we've explained to them who they are, except I didn't know who these people are. Who are the people who are on BreadTube? You mentioned someone...
Oh, God. Where the fuck have you...
named Destiny. I don't know who that is. Who else? But these are popular people.
Sure. Well, this Destiny character, who I guess, he's kind of the kingmaker of BreadTube. If not,
he's the kingmaker of BreadTube. He's not even in BreadTube by any... I think if you just asked him if he was involved with the online left, he'd say no, fuck them. He defends Kyle Rittenhouse. He has slagged off every single person you could call a member of BreadTube.
Not part of BreadTube himself, right?
Really?
He's a guy from Nebraska who worked at a carpet cleaning company, but figured out a way to start playing video games on the internet full time. And he became kind of famous for...
I like how Caleb Maupin is acting like he's never heard of video game streaming.
Playing a video game on the internet, and that was his life. And then randomly, around the time Trump got elected, he suddenly started debating right-wingers. And he was kind of a right-winger himself.
He still is a right-winger. He's more of a right-winger than when he started doing it. And in fact, I mean, if you actually looked at what people on BreadTube, people who could actually be considered part of it, have to say about the guy. ThoughtSlime's got a video using him as an example of the liberal mind prison because of his ridiculous responses to leftists trying to just explain what they stand for. Let's see, Non-Compete and Luna Oy, they both have videos talking about what an absolute right-wing asshole this guy is. And I'm pretty sure those aren't the only ones. Those are the ones I'm the most familiar with.
Or something. But then he started debating right-wingers, and mainstream media outlets were heralding him as, this famous internet troll is going to debate the right wing and debate Trump supporters. And he was getting a lot of play that way. And it seemed like that was his new gig, was debating folks. There's this character, I almost don't want to say his name, but I think we know him as Vosh. And this character, I mean, his father's a well-connected Hollywood person. He's from Beverly Hills.
Another person, okay, he at least claims to be some kind of leftist. He claims he's a libertarian socialist. Of course, when you actually ask him for his views, like on a concrete issue, he's just sort of a bog standard neoliberal dickhead. And he says all sorts of white nationalist shit, which actually puts him in the same league as Destiny. They also have in common that basically everybody you could call a breadtuber, like reasonably say is part of breadtube, hates him.
And he right now is just a cheerleader for the Azov battalion and the far right extremist forces in Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean, and that is true. He's very much that. He also smeared Professor Flowers, Lua, because as she pushed back against his white nationalist pro-colonialist talking points and started just pile-ons. He likes to start like racist pile-ons against leftist YouTube creators of color. Yeah, he really enjoys doing that. I mean, and in that he's very similar to Destiny, and they both have in common that they make Caleb Maupin look good when they're trying to make him look bad because they're both just so fucking ignorant.
He's gone all the way in to just, I mean, he wants this war to keep going. He wants Russians to die. Yeah,
he's a pro-imperialist asshole. I mean, and that's why Vosh and Destiny are so important to his argument. He didn't, like, randomly include them, even though there are all sorts of reasons you wouldn't, including the fact that everybody hates them. Everybody that you could actually call breadtube can't stand them. And that's because if you include them in it, you have two people that somebody who reads the book is likely to have heard of, unless they're completely out of touch with any of this stuff, like Jimmy Dore, who is lately just been parroting anti-vax shit and platforming Nazis. They're like their shared friend, the Magnus, whatever the fuck his name is. Yeah, and when you put them in there, then you can get all this sort of wishy-washy social democratic, neoliberal, imperialist bullshit in there and attribute it to all the breadtube. Even though, actually, those are amongst the many things that people who actually, that pretty much everybody else that he lists that, could more reasonably be considered part of breadtube disagrees with.
It's a big war between the United States and Russia, and he's made that clear. And again, if you watch his streams, what's kind of amusing is that he's not very familiar with left-wing politics at all.
This is true, and this is precisely why he manages to make Caleb Maupin look good. Because he's also really bad at the one thing that he is famous for supposedly being good at, which is debate tactics. Because the debate tactic you have to use with a crypto-fascist like Caleb Maupin, who doesn't like to just come right out and say it for the most part, though he got pretty mask-off in Austin at the CPI thing. I recommend the Thought Slime Sophie from Mars video dissecting that. But the thing is, you have to take a softly sort of approach and actually really sort of build up to a situation where he kind of has to acknowledge it, or he has to just, lie in an obvious way. But since Vosh is politically just completely ignorant, doesn't really understand any of this stuff, doesn't really know much of anything that anyone can determine, he just comes out with it and he says it in random time, be like, yeah, you're just a fascist, in response to some completely innocuous random thing that fucking Muppet says, and yeah, it makes him, and it all just makes Muppet look good. And if you were inclined to make the sort of arguments that Jimmy Dore and Caleb Muppet like to make, you'd say that they'd been fixing the match. Yeah, that he and that Vosh was working with him. I'm not saying that because I believe in actually being able to back up claims that I make, But if I were following the kind of rules that Caleb Muppet and Jimmy Dore embrace, then that's exactly what I would do. And with that, I'm going to take a little break. back.
I mean, he is handed lists of quotations, you know, from Lenin, from Marx, and he'll read them off as if that means you should vote for Joe Biden. And it's really.
You mean sort of like you use lists of quotations from Marx and Engels and then use them as proof that it's okay that billionaires should exist? Yeah, I mean, you have a whole video on how it's supposedly anti-Marxist to think that there shouldn't be billionaires.
Kind of pathetic to watch. But one thing that I find to be interesting about all of this, you know, you talk about the importance of people coming together. You know, Mumia Abu-Jamal, that was an important cause in the 90s. This was a black liberation fighter who was facing the death penalty. And the reason that Mumia Abu-Jamal is still alive, he didn't get the death penalty, he's still in prison, but the reason that the state of Pennsylvania couldn't execute this former Black Panther was because a lot of people of different political views came together to stand against his execution.
And therefore we should collaborate with fucking neo-Nazis like the Boogaloo Boys. See, and here's the other funny thing about Caleb Maupin and the subject of paramilitaries. He just fairly recently had a tweet out there saying that no one who identifies as a Marxist or leftist should be doing anything that remotely looks like any kind of militia. But he's cool with the fucking Boogaloo Boys.
You had the far left, communists, anarchists, others. You also had black nationalists, people with the Nation of Islam, Minister Farrakhan. You also had Catholic priests and nuns. The Pope stood against the execution of Mumia. You had Mennonites and Amish people. And in 1995, it was hundreds of thousands of people.
And, yeah, well, first of all, okay, there are a couple of things. First of all, the kind of key thing there is that none of those people was a white nationalist, like the people that Jimmy Dore and Caleb Maupin kind of have this relationship with. A relationship that is much that has much stronger evidence going for it than any claim of any relationship between BreadTube and any kind of fucking intelligence service. The other thing is that, I mean, that definitely helped. But another thing is that a huge amount of evidence that had been suppressed, like a whole fucking just file carton full of evidence that should have been handed over at his first trial, and if not at his second trial, got discovered just lying around in a fucking broom closet at the Philadelphia DA's office. And that ended up getting disclosed, ended up getting handed over, and it was proof that basically all of the witnesses that had testified, all the eyewitness testimony was from people who were either bribed or coerced by the cops, and these were the receipts. I mean, some of these witnesses had already been saying that all along, and it hadn't necessarily helped all that much in court. So, I mean, there are a lot of factors here, and one of them is that.
Piled into Philadelphia with one demand: don't execute Mumia Abu-Jamal. And that's why Mumia, this black revolutionary journalist, wasn't executed, because people...
that's the thing, it isn't just that. Because you've got millions of people from different kind of political backgrounds doing that quite often with death row prisoners, with largely black men who are on death row on bullshit charges, or, you know, either they didn't do it or they got an absolute joke of a trial, or all of the above. And they're huge, you know, you have protests and you have petitions and you have some media, and you even get some media traction from, like, liberals in the media to some extent, and they still get fucking executed. So there's a lot going on there, and I would not immediately say that some symbolic protests were the decisive factor. I think that they probably helped, that to that there were a lot of things, including just how comprehensively dodgy the trial was, and that he's actually had really good legal representation, and that Mumia Abu Jamal himself has actually managed to continue being in the public eye himself, like as a political commentator and stuff like that, even from within prison. So I mean, just saying it's this one protest, it does not really. I mean, that does not hold water.
People came together, overcame their differences. But nowadays, it seems like instead of doing that, we're supposed to engage in this kind of politics where the left talks to their crowd and riles them up and tries to purify them of any deviant thoughts within their own ranks. The right
yeah, I mean, like white nationalism.
Talks to their own crowd and does this, and everyone gets poorer, and the country polarizes politically, and austerity and war march ahead. And this is.
And the right is specifically cool with that.
A setup for disaster. This isn't how serious political organizing works.
Well, yeah, tell us about serious political organizing, Caleb, since you were important in Occupy Wall Street.
I couldn't agree with you more, and that is the biggest threat to them is the populist left, populist right, realizing we have a common enemy.
Except that the thing is that the so-called populist right, i.e., just fascists, don't actually consider themselves to have a common enemy with the left. And the thing is, the class background of the organized far right is not the same as the class makeup of the organized left, or even the less organized left. The fucking class makeup of the kind of the fascists that these two are both quite happy to platform and work with tends to be quite a bit more affluent than the class makeup of of any kind of left-wing organization. They, amongst other things, those guns are expensive. I mean, people act like that's some sort of, when you see one of these guys in all his fucking tack vests and all bandolier and AR-15 or whatever the fuck. They just act like that's some sort of salt of the earth thing. But I mean, what he's wearing there costs as much as a fucking Armani suit.
Realizing that we can organize together against the establishment, against the oligarchy, to stop war, to stop police brutality, to stop racism. We could do. There's a lot of things to help. Also, to help our economy and get a living wage for people. That's the last thing they want. They're now happy that gas prices are so high, so people will be
who's happy. Who is
forced to go back to poor-paying jobs? That's the.
Wait. Okay. Gas prices are high, and therefore people are forced to go back to poor-paying jobs. People were already being forced to go back to poor-paying jobs because COVID relief was a pittance to begin with. And then Biden and the Democrats and the Republicans all got together and ended UI support, unemployment insurance support, which is also a pittance, for people who were staying out of their jobs because it wasn't safe because of COVID. That's what forced people back in. The increase in gas prices, the fucking price gouging in the oil industry, which I haven't heard him give an example of who's happy about that, though. Though Caleb seems to be grinning quite a bit there. But that's actually, like, forcing them to get fucking fired from those jobs because they can't afford to go to work.
That's the world we're living in. And you're telling me that those people, those pretend... So it seems to me that the bread tube, or the people who say they're progressives or lefties on
Have you even read the book, Jimmy?
YouTube, but they're actually just shills for the Democratic Party. That's what I've noticed when I've looked a little into it.
Could you give me an example of what you're talking about? I mean, but he would know about shilling for the Democratic Party because he's done a fair bit of shilling for the Democratic Party.
It's every time they're like, well, you have to vote for Joe Biden. You have to vote for Hillary Clinton. You have to vote for the squad. You have to vote for Democrats. And Democrats are better than Republicans, and they come up with crazy reasons why the Democrats are better than the Republicans. Meanwhile, more and more people...
Who's they? Yeah, I mean, are these people allergic to
People fall into
examples?
poverty. More and more people go bankrupt. More and more people can't get health care. And we have more and more billions and trillions of dollars for imperialism and wars. Why they keep telling you to keep voting for them. I mean, and everybody does that, from
Who's they?
Kyle Kalinske to Crystal Ball to, right. I mean, of course, the Young Turks. Would you consider those
Well, yeah, those aren't BreadTube though. Those are I mean the young. Those are like fucking. They've been connected to the Democrats for donkey's years.
people bread too? Because it seems like they're doing the same thing, telling everybody to keep voting.
No, A, they're not, and B, don't give him any ideas. He will include literally any Democrat in BreadTube eventually in a second edition.
Democrat, and that's so you can go off and have your Marxist theories, and you can criticize Democrats, but you have to, at the end of the day, vote for them, and you can't ever entertain a third party. That's what.
Well, okay, a third party is an absolute grift in the U.S. I mean, and it's really. People should realize this by now, because the thing about the U.S. electoral system is that there is a de facto ban on opposition parties. I mean, technically, yes, you can start your little party, you can go and participate in elections, but you have to, in the U.S., if in order to get on, say, a presidential ballot, you can't. There isn't just one national election authority you go to, like in most countries that do this. Yeah, and say that have a presidential system, and you pay whatever the fee is. You show the signatures, and you're good. I mean, the fee is going to be prohibitive probably in the first place, but at least it's once. In the U.S., even for an at-large national office like the presidency, you have to go to each individual state. You have to pay 5-figure, often, ballot access fees. You have to carry out lengthy petition drives and then validation processes, and all of this costs a huge amount of money. Then you run into the problem where you're going to be shut out of the debates because those are controlled by the Democrats and the Republicans. You're not, I mean, they're not going to run, there's no requirement that party political broadcasts be given free airtime during an election season in the U.S. And as a result, just because even if you come up with the millions of fucking dollars you'd need in order to get your ad on television at a time, or, on any platform where it would be visible at a time when it would be visible, that they can still turn you down. And they often will. I mean, what people need to remember, like Ralph Nader, who I actually voted for at the time. This is all the way back in 1999, 2000. Okay, there was the debate, and he had asked to be, to participate in the debate since he was another fucking candidate. It should have been just a given. In any kind of reasonably democratic electoral system, it would be, but no, he was cut out of it. He bought a ticket in order to sit in the audience. He had a legitimate ticket to be there as an audience member, and security kicked him out. So, I mean, the whole third-party thing is just such an absolute grift. It's such a waste of time and money and resources and energy, because it would take nothing short of a revolution to get to the point where there would be any meaningful chance of a democratic election in the U.S. in the first place.
What I see that comes out of BreadTube, would you consider that?
Sure, well, it's the same script. They're reading from the same script.
No, they fucking aren't. The fucking Young Turks are not reading from the same script as Thought Slime.
There's no question about it. I think BreadTube is more specifically aimed at teenagers, people in their early 20s.
Actually, I mean, what's funny is in the book he claims that Thought Slime's audience is mostly teenage. And that's not true. It turns out, according to Thought Slime's own analytics from YouTube, it's actually the 35 to 45s. So, like, basically Gen X is one of the main audiences.
Okay.
It's got more of a grunge vibe, it's people
You don't a grunge vibe. Like, do you even know what grunge is? Jesus Christ, you're old enough to remember the 90s. Like, where's the flannel? Where's the grunge? Show me one fucking... What the grunge vibe? Like, where's the fucking, like, Pearl Jam style background music? What are you... Grunge? Do you, like, not know what any pop culture thing is?
Sitting in their basements streaming. It's documentaries and things that are more alternative looking. It's got that more punk rock alternative aesthetic.
No, okay. He just keeps on throwing these things out. Okay, punk rock and alternative, not the same thing exactly. And also where?
But it's the same script that Young Turks is using, the same script that Kyle Kalinske is using, same narrative. What I find interesting is, again, they've gone after you because, oh my gosh, you interviewed a Bugaloo boy, right?
A Bugaloo boy.
Right? But none of this cancel culture ever applies to Joe Biden.
Are you kidding me? Like, okay, the one person you can find who actually who could be considered even in the periphery of BreadTube, who stands Joe Biden, is also a misogynistic asshole who is also, like Joe Biden, pretty fucking racist. I mean, he just does not really give a shit about... Neither of these people have the slightest bit of respect for their audiences. We have not had an example yet. We are 14 minutes in. No examples. Not a single one.
Ever.
You ain't black, author of the crime bill. You just have to vote for him because
he built the cages those kids are in. He's the one who made it so you can't get rid of your medical debt or your student debt and bank.
Yeah, and like literally, can you give an example other than Vosh? Like, of somebody who was going this hard pro-Biden? Can you just give an example? Like, are you so worried that even your self-selected gullible audience will possibly Google these things and actually check out some of these people? Like, we haven't... The only people who have been mentioned as being part of BreadTube at this point are Vosh and Destiny. And now Caleb has embraced the idea of expanding the definition of BreadTube even further, so that in addition to Vosh and Destiny, it also includes the fucking Young Turks. Next, we're gonna find out that Daily Cost was also BreadTube, and eventually it'll turn out Jen Psaki was also BreadTube, and it'll turn out like everything that fucking Caleb Maupin doesn't like is BreadTube.
He made it. He's been the screwer of the American people. He's been why are most of our prisons filled up with black and brown people? Because Joe Biden.
Yes.
So you'll never.
Not just him, but he certainly was a sponsor of the mass incarceration bill. You can't write the entire thing down to him, but he was on the wrong side of every single one of those issues every time they've been presented. That's true. But, he had help. It wasn't just him passing those bills. It wasn't just him writing them.
They'll never cancel him, but they'll try to cancel me when I speak about Joe Biden in an honest way and tell people to stop voting for him.
Sure. And
that's the criticism leftists have about you, that you don't like Joe Biden, because... Like, we just love fucking Joe Biden. We love, not having student debt canceled. We love not having any fucking measures taken to protect us from COVID. We love not having any more COVID relief. That's...
The crazy thing is, there's the narrative that they have is so shallow. It's basically...
What's the narrative?
There's this group of bad people called fascists, and they're under every rock,
yes.
And they're hiding behind every tree.
Yes.
Every Trump supporter is a Nazi.
Yes.
Every conservative is a Nazi. And they're not even understanding that fascism, there is a scientific Marxist understanding of it. Read.
And that scientific Marxist understanding of it does not actually help you, Caleb.
R. Palm Dutt. Read Georgy Dimitrov, right? There is an understanding of where fascism comes from, and it flows from the breakdown of capitalism. It's a system, when you have the capitalist system with profits in command, you inevitably have economic breakdowns and,
Yeah, and it is very convenient for a system like that to have a guy who says that who occasionally pretends to be a socialist, occasionally says he's a communist, even. Mostly his policy proposals are social democratic, and he smears people who are to the left of him and invites people to work with the neo-Nazis who are trying to protect the status quo by carrying out racist violence and blaming everything on Jews and Arabs and, and refugees and, all this shit. And, of course, blaming everything on trans people. How could I forget? Because, you can't forget that. And he loves platforming Jyoti Brar, and then saying that he couldn't possibly be transphobic because, like, 15 years ago he had some pictures taken where he was holding a pro-trans rights placard. Yeah. You could actually say there. If you take the bits of his really thin argument and apply them to his own political organization that he's trying to start, and his own political associations and his own propaganda, it actually does not look very good for him.
Great leaps in technology lead to greater poverty. And as there's greater poverty in society, one faction of the ruling class wants to lock down society, drive wages down, and reduce living standards, and degrow, which is another big bread tube theme, degrowth. They want to degrow in order to try and stabilize the capitalist economy. There's a scientific Marxist understanding of what fascism actually is, but in their minds, fascism is a question of good people.
Did he just say fascism is degrowth?
Versus bad people, and if we just drive these bad people out, then everything will be fine. Well, no, it's not a question of good people versus bad people. It's a problem.
Except, there is kind of that aspect. Fascists are not very good people.
Problem rooted in the system, the fundamental flaws of the capitalist system.
The capitalist system that all your proposals maintain.
So they think that people they'll say Donald Trump and Ted Cruz are fascists, but
just because they give shout-outs to neo-Nazis and encourage fascist violence,
guys like Joe Biden, Kamala Harris are good people.
Who exactly is saying that either of them is good people? I don't even think Vosh was saying that much. He came up with the most just ridiculous argument for why you have to vote for him, to be sure. But he did not actually... I would be surprised if he actually said he thought he was a good person. Even Vosh, I would be surprised about that. Maybe he did, to be clear. I only watched a bit of it, because... it's painful to watch him. It's also painful to watch this guy.
As if they don't serve the exact same people and have almost the exact same agenda, except with tweaks on the margins.
Sure. Well,
they're all.
You have to understand.
Go ahead.
Trump says naughty words. He said naughty words, and it's all about words with these people. It's all about words.
No.
It's all about aesthetics. It's all about imagery. Nothing about concrete, actual analysis. Joe Biden.
You haven't provided any of that either, and we're now more than halfway in here, and he just keeps on talking about these people and not giving any example, and fucking Jimmy Dore is just sitting here nodding around. He is totally cool with it because, neither of them want to give examples, because then you could actually begin to argue against it. He would require actually making a claim that was somehow verifiable, as opposed to just having some kind of airy little they that you throw around.
Biden can set up the crime bill. Joe Biden can be driving the wages of workers down. None of that matters. It's all just this question of aesthetics, and they're opposing fascism isn't just a question of aesthetic. In a very broad philosophical sense, you could say that not liking Nazi paramilitaries running around attacking people like they just did in fucking
I mean, in Buffalo again. Was a question of aesthetics in a very broad philosophical sense of like an offense to one's moral sensibilities. But yeah, no, that's I mean, just fucking
Triggered by what they think of as authoritarianism, right? If anything reeks of, a strong government getting things done, it scares them, whether it's coming from the right or the left. And again, go back to the Congress for Cultural Freedom and Susan Sontag and her redefinition of fascism.
yeah, which is I mean, Sophie from Mars deals with this because he totally misquotes her.
Fascism becomes groups of people working together for a common aim when they're trying to.
That's not what Susan Sontag said.
Equate the Soviet Union with Nazi Germany. There's a long.
She also didn't do that.
Precedent for these kind of distortions of left-wing politics, and BreadTube is a continuation of that, I maintain.
Well, and again, I don't. So the reason why I'm not aware of who BreadTube is because I'm not in the demo that they're going after, right? Because they're going after younger people.
Yeah, well, not that much younger, judging from their viewer demographics.
Sure. And are they mostly on Twitch or YouTube or both?
Twitch, YouTube, they're all across social media platforms. They're very widely promoted.
What about that Hassan Pike? So when I see that Hassan Piker, Cenk Uyghur's nephew,
sure,
super talent. He had an article, a positive article written about him in like the Business Insider or some magazine like that. I don't know which one it was. But the reason I know this is because every time I logged into Twitter for a week straight, it was promoting that article. How does that happen?
Exactly. And if you look at how BreadTube started on Reddit, it was largely there was a lot of money being handed out in order to encourage people to debunk the ideas of the right wing, right? The right wing was gaining on the internet. There were a lot of right wing YouTube channels, etc. And a lot of money started showing up in people's Patreons, and a lot of algorithmic support was being provided for people to debunk the right wing. And that's good. I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff on the right wing, conspiracy theories.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because Caleb Maupin, I mean, if there's one thing he hates, it's a right-wing conspiracy theory.
And notions that we should privatize everything and roll back all government regulation. So it's not inherently bad, but at the end of the day, they're also targeting people on the left, like you, like me.
Yeah, neither of you are. I mean, Jimmy Dore is not any kind of anti-capitalist. And Caleb Maupin, he likes to use a Soviet aesthetic. He likes to occasionally quote Marx in order to oppose communists. But when you get down to his proposals, I mean, it's just straight up just reformism with racist characteristics.
Dare actually challenge the system, and they're trying to cultivate the left to just be foot soldiers for some of the most powerful capitalists out there.
For the Democratic Party.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos, the Walton family.
Bill Gates.
Yeah. I mean, if there's anything that like Thought Slime and the Surfs and Non-Compete and all of them, they absolutely just love. They just love Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates. That's totally their vibes.
Walmart. Yeah, I mean that's who they ultimately want leftism to serve, and
still no examples.
No, I mean, the goal is to get a society where the banks and the factories and the industries and the centers of economic power are organized to serve public good and not the profits of a few.
Well, no, the idea is to have get to a situation where all of those things are controlled by the working class in the interest of the working class, and there's no need of banks because we've done away with money.
Nationally organized economy. That's the goal. The goal is to overturn this system of imperialism and build a society where the needs of people come first. And you're not going to solve that with work.
He's always so vague on this sort of thing. Like he'll say, "Oh, we need rational. We need the economy to be organized rationally, or we need an economy where the needs of people come first. That can mean all sorts of things. What he does not ever actually just say is that we need communism, that we need the economy, the means of production and the natural resources and means of human survival to be held in common by all of us on the principle to each according to their need, from each according to their, abilities, to each according to their needs, or something like that. He doesn't get into any of that. It's just like, this is stuff that any labor politician from the 1970s could easily get behind.
Cooperative schemes, and you're not going to solve that by voting for Joe Biden. Ultimately, it's a question of getting working people to realize their own economic interests. And they have a word for that, right? If you want to raise the minimum wage, or if you want Medicare for all, you're a class reductionist.
No, the word is reformist, I would have thought. No, that's not what class reductionism means. Class reductionism is when you just sort of ignore all the other dynamics of oppression that are going on in a society and affecting people, and suggest that you can just kind of ignore all that shit and only deal with class, and the other stuff will sort itself out, and, there's no reason to actually give a shit about it, and certainly no reason to look at the way, the praxis within our own organizations. And I'm just going to be taking another little break. I will be back shortly. And we're back for the remainder of this cowpat of a Jimmy Dore Caleb Muppet collab.
That's their term.
What?
Immediately they scream class reduction.
What does that mean?
Oh, this will be good. Okay, I love that Jimmy Dore has never heard the term class reductionist before. That is exactly the sort of audience that Caleb Muppet is trying to cultivate, is people who don't know what any of this stuff is. And Jimmy Dore is just like such a perfect surrogate for an audience that doesn't actually really know anything about any of this, and therefore can be easily fucking scammed.
I don't know what it means, but if you want to fight for economic justice, you're a bad person. You're a class reductionist.
Caleb Maupin doesn't know what it means either. Like, not even to come up with a bad faith definition like he did for, like, anti-fascism. He's not even gonna try to, I mean, it means a very specific thing. Now, liberals misuse the shit out of the term, because kind of that's just what liberals do with everything. They'll take a term that, you know, leftists come up with and coin for a very specific purpose, and then they just use it to mean anybody they don't like. Like, they use it to mean anyone who talks about class at all. It's sort of like liberals have done with the term tanky, which used to be a term that, like, anarchists and used to make fun of people who very specifically stand things like the invasion of Hungary by the Soviet Union, shit like that. And liberals took it, now it means, like, anyone who thinks that maybe the U.S. should not do imperialism, that maybe standing the U.S. military is bad. I mean, that's just what liberals do, but no, class reductionism is when you try to shut down any discussion of any other kind of oppression, any other kind of exploitation, any other, you know, system of hierarchy and domination and exploitation and oppression by saying that the only thing that matters is class and nothing else, and, you know, nothing else matters, and which is bullshit. In fact, the ironic thing about class reductionism is it literally reduces the segment of the working class that you're speaking to. Because if you're only going to acknowledge as working class concerns those things that are experienced by people who are not on the uncomfortable end of racism, are not on the uncomfortable end of homophobia or transphobia, are not on the uncomfortable end of fucking misogyny or any of these, or, you know, ableism or whatever, then you're talking about actually a pretty vanishingly small amount of the working class, because the overwhelming majority of the working class is on the uncomfortable end of one or more of those things. Straight white guys who aren't on the, are actually the absolute small minority of the working class and are way overrepresented in the bourgeoisie. That's just kind of so. I mean, I love that he doesn't even try to come up with a bullshit definition of it. Like, he has not ever bothered to even look it up. Yeah, meanwhile, I mean, the best part of that is that his first awareness of Thought Slime is Thought Slime clipped a bit of this interview where he was interviewing a hardcore transphobe from a tiny little fringe organization called the CPGBML, which makes her a prominent communist leader, according to fucking Caleb Maupin, in a video where he was explaining the concept of class reductionism, where Thought Slime was explaining this. And he watched it enough to know, I mean, to have just an absolute fucking shit fit over the fact that, that Thought Slime had criticized the things that Caleb had nodded along to, without criticizing all the transphobic shit that Jyoti Barr said. Oh, hello, Phoenix. Good to see you. been a bit quiet in here, and the restream has been backing up a bit, just so you know. So I mean, he's definitely heard definitions of class reductionism that are decent, but to actually like he doesn't even have any idea what the term means. To just admit that I mean, that's deep.
And they have all kinds of lists of accusatory names they throw at people. And one of them is if you believe in economic justice, if you raise economic issues, you don't focus on the culture war, you're a class reductionist.
No, that's not what it means.
That is such. That's well. What I enjoy telling people is that when you hear people who say they're on the left in the United States, and they say things like, "Oh, we have to organize along class lines." Right? We have to organize. You'll even hear the knuckleheads at TYT say this thing. We have to organize along class lines.
Yeah. Okay. What's coming here? How is he going to fuck this up?
They have no idea what that means, and if they do, they're just blatantly lying because they do not mean what organizing along class lines means. Is that you organized with people in the same class, meaning whatever political stripe they come from, meaning if they're a libertarian or a...
No. No, that's not what it means, because if you're organizing along class lines, that doesn't mean you have absolutely no political distinctions. Jesus, I can imagine. I hope it wasn't. I hope nobody you know was. I hope it wasn't any. I hope it wasn't anyone you know. Jesus, that's. I actually spent like, I think a year in Buffalo when I was like 2 years old myself.
Socialist or a Republican or a...
No, because the thing is, if they're... See, the thing about organizing along class lines is the people you're listing there, the so-called, the right libertarians, the Republicans, they're not doing that. They are, first of all, they're considerably less likely to be working class. Second of all, they're organizing specifically with the class enemy, in defense of the class enemy. Organizing along class lines does not mean you, like, ignore what class interest a person is defending. Jesus, Jimmy, you managed it. I knew you were gonna fuck this up somehow, but that's impressive.
Boogaloo Boy or
God,
a
I'm so sorry to hear
socialist
that. That is fucked up. I am so sorry to hear that. Ugh, God. Feels like a ridiculous question to ask, but how are you getting on from all that? I mean, do you have emotional support at where you are and get through that? Because that's fucked up. I am so sorry. Well, I would say that sounds about right to me. I mean, this idea that you organize with people who are workers regardless of whether they are... I mean, this kind of fits in there. Because neither of them, first of all, I mean, you have to kind of question their class affiliations in the first place. But this idea that it means that you organize with people no matter what side they're on is not what any of that means. I mean, and this guy, I mean, I don't know how long you've been watching, but they've both been talking. I mean, like, Jimmy Dore's on here talking about how like, hard done by he is, because people pointed out that the fascist paramilitary guy he platformed and didn't ask any critical questions of was a white nationalist, was a guy whose politics were fucking shared. Oh, yeah. I bet. It really does that. And these two chuckle fucks are, like, literally promoting some of the more dangerous ones, like, in terms of individual white nationalist terror. I mean, They both are connected to, in fact, to literally the same fucking boogaloo chuckle fuck. Jesus, yeah.
Communist, all those people have to come together. That's called, so it's just like when you organize a
Come together for what, though? It's not just all those people come together. It's that they come together to struggle for working class interests, which means that the working class right libertarians, the working class fucking Republicans, that those people, either they realize that they have actually been screwing over their own side, screwing themselves over, or they're not part of it, because otherwise it isn't organizing, it's just a fucking clusterfuck. Oh, sorry to hear that. What have you got? What's wrong? What kind of sick? You have been having a shit week. I think that is fair to say.
union. I've been in unions my whole life. The way you don't organize a union is you don't go to the shop floor and go, who here's a Boogaloo boy? You're out. Who here's a Proud Boy? You're out.
Yeah, actually you do, because those people are going to scab. Those people, like literally, especially the Proud Boys, who venerate the entrepreneur, those are fucking scabs. Those people are not going to be on your side in a union. If they're getting in a union, it's to fuck the union up. I mean, this idea that you can organize along class lines and have Nazis in there who explicitly are trying to crush class struggle, that, I mean, God, I mean, this is so mask off of both of them.
Who's here as a libertarian gun nut? You're out. Who here's a Trump voter? You're out. Okay, who's left? Now we're going to organize against the man with you people. That's...
Yeah, except no. First of all, I mean, I love how they act like that would actually represent such a huge amount of the working class. They really have absolutely no idea. They clearly have not spent any time with the people who are organizing unions right now. God, these fucking people. Oh, cuddly cats are always good. Aw, shit. What's wrong with... Do you know what's wrong with it? I mean, maybe it's something that, maybe it's something that can be repaired. I mean, depending on what kind of laptop you've got.
It's not how organizing works. It's only powerful.
What the fuck would you know about how organizing works? What the fuck would either of these two chuckle fucks know about how organizing works? When was the last time they organized anything?
When you get people who totally disagree with each other to agree on something, and that's...
Yeah, to agree on what, Jimmy? You haven't actually addressed that. What are they all going to agree on when you bring the Nazis and the Republicans and the Libertarians together with the Communists? I mean, assuming they don't just kill the Communists, because that's kind of their thing. But what are they supposed to agree on, Jimmy? Well, actually, I mean, is it a PC or an iPad or like an Apple or... Because if it's a PC, there's a pretty good chance you could that could be repaired. I mean, it may, depending on how old the thing is and everything, it may not be worth it, but it might be worth at least checking it out.
When change really happens, like when we had the Medicare for All march this summer,
with all the fucking Nazis, yeah. And when we had the Medicare for All march, did we get Medicare for All, Jimmy? Did we get Medicare for All? Have we got Medicare for All now, in the middle of this uncontrolled pandemic that you're somehow very cool with, Jimmy?
People were complaining that there's some right-wingers on stage.
Yes, yeah, like literal fucking white nationalists. Okay, yeah. That's not good.
That's because Medicare for All means Medicare for all.
That doesn't mean that you platform fascists, you dickhead. And I mean, you're going to sell this as a big organizing success when you didn't get that thing.
And that's when you can actually pressure government, when you have people from all different stripes of politics combined and converging on one idea. That's how you make something.
Yeah, except you know what happens when you let the fucking Nazis onto your platform, Jimmy? I think you probably know at this point, and I'm sure Caleb Moppin knows this. You let Nazis onto your platform, then all the people who are targeted by Nazis have to watch their backs in the space you've created. And a lot of them will not go anywhere near it because the threat of violence is very real. So by trying to be inclusive, by including fucking white supremacists, by including fascists, you actually become less inclusive. God, I mean, these fucking people. And this would be a great point if Caleb Maupin actually wanted to in any way disprove this idea that he's a fascist sympathizer, which clearly at this point he does not, to say, yeah, actually that was probably a bad idea. Well, I mean, under 200, that seems like an amount you could probably raise if you have a good yeah. It's so easy to get. It's so basic. If you've got people in here who say, I want to kill all the Jews and black people, and you put them into your group, then all the Jews and black people have to say, wait a second, this group isn't necessarily the safest place for me to be. I mean, it's so fucking basic, but I actually don't believe that these two, well, Jimmy Dore of the two is the most likely never have to have given any of this any significant thought at all. But I feel like fucking Caleb Moppet probably realizes what this actually means, and he's cool with it. I mean, under 200, I mean, if you want to, set up a GoFundMe or some shit like that, I'll be happy to. I'll spread that around, and when I get paid, I'll be happy to put some in there. I mean, that seems like an amount that could probably get passed around fairly quickly. If you set it up on Twitter or something like that, and I certainly would be happy to help out. I've had this problem. I was lucky because when my good laptop, died, I had already bought roughly half the parts to build this PC I'm using now. And I was in a position where I actually could drop the money to just buy the rest of the parts and build the fucking thing, which was just really lucky because the other times my computers have died on me, that has not been the case, and I've ended up really, really fucked as a result. But, yeah. I mean, if you want to if you want to try to crowdfund that, I'm there for it. I will help out. I'll spread it around. Hopefully, some people who have more followers than I do will pick it up. I bet Andromeda might be up for that. Would probably be up for that as well. I mean, I can't speak for Andromeda, but I can certainly ask her, and I bet you have her on Twitter at this point as well. And she's got more followers than both of us, I think. And I would certainly be happy to chip in once I get paid on that. Okay. And now I have to remember which is you on Twitter, because you have a totally different name on Twitter.
Happened, which is why the Black Panthers teamed up with the KKK in Las Vegas.
Not exactly. That isn't exactly what happened.
To get their welfare checks back. That's why they killed Fred Hampton. Why did they kill Fred Hampton? Because he was organizing black people? No, because...
Yes, actually, that is exactly why they fucking killed Fred Hampton. That's why they... that's also... It won't have escaped you that around that same time, lots of people who were organizing black people got fucking murdered. I mean, also Malcolm X, also Martin Luther King Jr. I mean, people who, not to mention all the fucking people who haven't got anywhere near that kind of name recognition, who got murdered for like trying to organize the vote, voter registration drives and sit-ins and stuff like that during the civil rights movement in the South. I mean, yeah, people actually, yeah, if he had been trying to organize white office workers from fucking Poughkeepsie, he'd be alive right now, Jimmy. He would be alive right now. That's not the reason. Okay, I'm just gonna go there. And I will share that. Ah, yes. I don't see the GoFundMe link. It looks like your pinned post is something else. You have a pinned thread, but not the pinned post. I don't see the GoFundMe. I see your YouTube and that stuff, but not the other.
Because Fred Hampton was organizing Southern racist whites with black people in Chicago, and they were realizing they had more.
How many Southern racist whites were there in Chicago? I mean, specifically Southern. Plenty of racist white people.
In common than they had separate and different, and that's when they killed Fred Hampton.
Jesus Christ, this guy. Oh, here, I see it. There, I found it. I was scrolling through the thread and I missed that bit.
So that's the thing that they can't have, and that's what people who say we have to organize along class lines. When you hear somebody at the Young Turks say we have to organize, they don't mean it for a second.
Yeah, of course not, because they're shills for the Democratic Party. They're fucking liberals. They don't even, I mean, if you ask them what class lines were, they wouldn't actually even be able to give you a fucking definition of it. I mean, I love how, and I mean, I don't know if you were there for this, Phoenix, but Jimmy Dore, who admitted he doesn't know anything about BreadTube, never heard of it, doesn't know a single thing about it. He's like, well, would you consider, like, the Young Turks to be part of BreadTube? And Caleb's like, yeah, I guess you could do that. And it's like, I mean, at this point, the term has no fucking meaning.
I hate people who are in the different political party than they are and in the same class.
Oh, well, no, it isn't about the different political party. It's... See, the thing is that when people are when people's political view is that violence against you, against, people of your ethnicity, of your fucking sexuality, of your gender is a legitimate political objective to build a society where there's more of that, to engage in direct violence against people because of that, then that's not somebody you can organize with because they're gonna try to fucking kill you, you dickhead.
They hate those people, and in fact, their business model is built on clickbait, hating those people. So, would you like to comment on that?
Oh, okay.
Well, sure. And, the biggest cure in U.S. history for racism has always been the picket line. When black workers and white workers see they have a common economic interest, this breaks down the divisions. It was...
and here's where you could kind of, if you see, since you don't know about what class reductionism means, you've actually admitted to not having any idea. See, the thing is that racism is specifically used by bosses in order to break up those picket lines as well. I mean...
is the CIO and in their effort to spread unions, it was that broke down the racial divisions when the Communist Party in the 1930s,
which is why there's no racism anymore,
was going into the auto plants and the steel mills. often they would break down historical divisions among workers and build multiracial unions.
Yeah, I mean, and that is true to a certain extent, but that's not what either of you two are doing. You're not building multiracial unions. You're not building any kind of fucking unions.
You hear about in the South when the sharecroppers were organizing, how William Z. Foster and Gus Hall would go to a town and give a speech, and how the white workers would rip up their Ku Klux Klan cards and say, "My enemy isn't the black people, my enemy is the plantation owners." And
yeah, and some of them did that, and others of them kept their KKK cards and just sort of like murdered the people who were going to the meetings. And the thing is, those are the people that you are telling us that we should embrace within our organizations. And what do you think that's going to result in?
The capitalists and the big bankers, that is how you overcome
capitalism.
racism.
See, that is just a huge fucking brown flag right there. This idea, when you see people equating capitalism to the bankers, because one of the biggest traditional fascist things is to sort of deviate, like take a critique of capitalism and move it towards just being a critique of finance. And they like a critique of finance because they can make it about the Jews, because there's this whole fucking conspiracy architecture all around making that about the Jews. Like, the Nazis love to make it about finance. In fact, like, the fascists who were actually quite comfortable in a lot of Occupy Wall Street spaces, they were all about moving any discussion of capitalism towards a discussion of finance.
Getting people to see they have something in common, bringing people together. It's through those kinds of struggles that you can break down inequality, and that people can see that they have more in common. And by creating artificial divisions ahead of time and discouraging economic struggle, you're
which is not what anyone's talking about.
setting the stage for the opposite. You're setting the stage for basically whipsawing the population. There's an old device they call the whipsaw, right? And it's like a two-man saw. And when one guy's pushing, the other guy's pulling. And when one guy's pulling, the other guy's pushing. That's kind of what they're doing right now in the United States. They want one section of the population to think that they can only gain at the expense of another section of the population. And then they go to the other section and say, "Oh, you can only gain at the expense of the other one." And we've got work.
Well, the thing is, capitalism is a zero-sum game. Workers can only gain at the expense of capitalists.
People all throughout the United States pushing and pulling on each other in a culture war, and we're all getting poorer, and their agenda of creating a low-wage police state marches ahead. And we got to have class solidarity.
What are you doing against that, Caleb? I mean, we're fucking Jimmy Dore. Because the thing about these Nazis that you want us all to embrace is that the cops fucking love them. The cops have practically deputized them. And you can't go over here and be like, be all gotcha because Vosh is standing the Azov regiment, because of course he is. I mean, they're white nationalists who like U.S. imperialism. Of course he likes them, because, I mean, there's a natural sympathy there. But, okay, he was all earlier in this stream. I don't know if you've been here for the whole sordid affair. He was, talking about, look, you can't trust Vosh because he stands the Azov regiment, and you can't. He wants to support Nazis, and now here they are, like 20 minutes later, talking about how actually it's good to work with Nazis. Like, you can have it one way or you can have it the other. You can't have that both ways. Either it's a huge gotcha that Vosh is standing Nazis, or or standing Nazis is, organizing along class lines.
Solidarity. We got to go against it. Fred Hampton is a great example of that kind of work.
Low-wage police state. That is exactly what they're pushing for.
We've already got that. Pushing for? What the... Where the fuck have you been, Jimmy? We're in a low-wage police state. We're in such a low-wage police state that even the minimum wage demand has not changed in 20 years. $15 an hour is now 20 years old. That's how much of a low-wage police state we are in. We're in such a low-wage police state that Biden has decided to take all the money that was allocated to COVID relief and protecting the population from COVID that his government declined to use, and he's dividing it between more weapons to keep the war in Ukraine going and the cops. I mean, they're pushing for a low-wage police state. We're living in a low-wage police state, motherfucker.
Well, anyway, great work on this. BreadTube Serves Imperialism, Examining the New Brand of Internet Pseudo-Socialism by Caleb Maupin. It's available at Amazon and all the places where you can buy. But do you have a website?
Sure. I'm at calebmaupin.com, but you can also check out, I work with a think tank called the Center for Political Innovation. We're at cpiusa.org. We're trying to bring people together, try to formulate an economic program.
Yeah, and we've seen the kind of people that he's bringing together.
Rescue the United States from the crisis we're facing. cpiusa.org. It's the Center for Political Innovation.
Caleb Maupin's been our guest. Great work, and look forward to talking.
Yeah, did you, nowhere in this 26 minutes did Jimmy Dore give any sign that he read this thing. And I've been talking for a really long time. I'm just going to pop up for a couple of minutes.
Thanks for coming on the show, and I apologize again for the delay. Thanks for being a good sport.
I just need a little bit of a break, but after that I'll be back for in a minute, and maybe we can do some Geoguessr for a bit, and then maybe watch another video, depending on when I run out of energy. So I'll be back in just a couple of minutes. This has been an unusually long stream. I started at 9:45. And we're back, and I left my glasses upstairs, apparently. Well, that was deep. That was seriously mask off, and I've been talking for quite a long time straight, so I think at this point it might be time for a little bit of Geoguessr to just sort of cool down and relax a bit, and maybe get to another video after that. Because somehow, like, I had been talking for a half an hour and I was only 5 minutes into the fucking video. Some more Geoguessr. Oh, by the way, Phoenix, you'll be interested in this. Tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Eastern US Time, I'm going to be doing Geoguessr in Spanish on my language-related channel. Okay. Play again. Okay, my immediate thought is that we are in Italy. Proprietà privata. Private property. The thing that neither of them are talking about. Both of these chuckle fucks are talking about organizing along class lines, but they won't say what that is for. Like, organizing to do what? It's like, okay, this is very mountainous. I think we are in northern Italy, possibly in South Tyrol. Yeah, with these houses, this design, I think we're in South Tyrol. So way up by the Austrian border. This might it might even be Domodossola. So, okay, we get out of Kyrgyzstan. Yeah, thinking like Bressanone, Ortisei, you know, or Merano, Livigno, someplace like that. I mean, this all looks very alpine. It could even be the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland. Cooperativa Autotrasportatori. Freight Transport Cooperative. Yeah. Oh, wait. Here we go. Verdesina. Villa Rendena. Okay, everything about this tells me we're in the north. Never heard of Verdesina. Borgomanero, Cornie, Verbania. Domodossola, Villa d'Ossola. Monte Tamaro, Locarno. Verbania. Menaggio, Domaso. Vezza d'Olio. Santa Caterina. Isolaccia. Fonte alla Roccia. It's all very alpine, but so far I'm not. Maybe we'll get like a route number or something like that that we can work with. Oh, that looks like a main road. Pinzolo and Tione. Haven't heard of either of them. Livigno, Tirano, Tommaso. Verdesina. Villa Rendena, Porte di Rendena. Yeah, okay. None of these place names are actually ringing any bells. This is not the part of Italy I really know much about. I only know Domodossola really because I read a novel that was set there. Novara, Gattinara, Bardonecchia. Torre Pellice. E sesto 239 di Campiglio. Okay, Campillo 239. SS 239. 211. 393. 25. 26. 394. Okay. 242, 244, 238. Two, 3, 9 though. We're 13, 14, 308. 240. There's Brescia. 237. That's still 237. 239. Madonna di Campiglio. Madonna. Pallu. Pinzolo. Okay. Pelugo. Porte di Rendena. Okay. There's some of our place names that we've got here. Tione. That's another one. Verdesina. There we go. Okay, it'll be around here. That was... Okay, north of this, by Riva del Garda, Rovereto. Tione. Cazzo, dov'era? Verdesina, eccoti. 122 yards, 5,000 points. Not a bad start for this round. Okay. A mint parrot. Okay. Peppermint Park Estate. I hope they haven't planted peppermint. I mean, it's lovely stuff, but God, it will... One thing I know about planting... Give way! We are either in Australia or Britain, and then looking at this, yeah, we're in Australia. We've got a white street sign, US style, but white instead of green. This is Australia. But peppermint, if you plant that in your garden, it will dominate everything. Okay, it's metric. Definitely Australia. Fairly dry place, but that doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot. Lots of fairly dry places in Australia. Really, Australia, apart from the coastal areas, is just a fairly dry place. Oh well, Queen Elizabeth, either way you go. Yeah, that is probably one of the... Okay, one of the least informative street names in the Commonwealth. Cornerstone Church of Christ. Geograph Leisure Center. We gotta get something better than this. A bus would be nice. Walia Vineyard. Okay, we're in wine country. That begins to sound like probably Victoria, South Australia, maybe. Those are the main... That's the main wine country there, Victoria and South Australia. Yeah, there we go. Confirmation that it's definitely australia.com.au. Could this be the Hume? Refuge Island. Oh, okay. Bustleton Bypass, Dunsborough, Margaret River, Augusta. And it's the Highway 10. I mean, Port Augusta. I know, but... Bustleton, Margaret River. Ararat, Stowell. I mean, that's the Hume. Which runs from Melbourne to Sydney. That's just the M, but it's not number 10. Bustleton Bypass. Delegate, Bondi Forest. Marambula. Bellara. Burrinjuck. Fairway Drive. Okay, none of that's actually helping me much. Okay, this is the off-ramp. Let's see, what... The Capel, Bunbury, Dunsborough, Margaret River. Western Ringtail Museum. Okay, could this be WA? I didn't know they had wine out in WA. Bustleton, Bunbury. And Route 10, there we go. Crystal Mining, Rains Court. Fairway Drive, Queen Elizabeth Avenue. There we are. $740 yards. 49.98. Okay, not a bad continuation. We buy gold, Wendy's. Riverdale. That is a totally nondescript name. Jesus. Sally Beauty Supply. I'm feeling fairly confident in saying we are in North America. Right-hand traffic as well. Right, fuck yeah. Sports Authority, Office Max. Jesus. East 26, East 60. The fuck are those? I've never seen a state route sign like that before, and we're in someplace mountainous. Yeah, we are in the US here. Speed limit, not maximum. Oh, could we stay on one side of the road, please? Okay. Fuck off. I didn't want to go into the car park of this fucking McDonald's. Harbor Freight. There's gotta be an interstate near here. If I know my horrible US commercial strip mall hellscapes, I know there's going to be an interstate on-ramp around here someplace. Hobby Lobby, Toyota, Kingstop. Periodically do that to assess the constipation of Restream. Fueled by beer and Christmas cheer, and a Sinclair station. That is probably a regional signifier, but... And I feel like I've heard of Sinclair service stations. But not to the extent of actually knowing where they have them. I mean, what... I guess this would probably be someplace in the Rockies? Okay. Somewhere around here, there's going to be an on-ramp. And there'll be a sign for it, and that'll give us an idea where the hell we exactly are, other than in a trading estate hell someplace near some mountains in the U.S. Classic water park. The non-emergency medical transportation company, and that's what, 385 area code. What the hell just happened? Did it just boot me back to the beginning? Utah! I was beginning to think Utah. Okay, Salt Lake City. Okay, that checks out. $900 West. Riverdale and $900 West. $900 West. Fremont, Dalton. Well, we're moving towards the mountains. Hold on, did it say whether it was north or south 900 West? No, just 900 West and Riverdale. Senora Drive, Poncetta Drive. Chapman Branch, Smith's Food and Drug, Panaderia Flore. Granger Industrial Supply. Central Valley, 3300 South. River Bend, but not Riverdale. North-South Lake. Ballpark. Trans-Jordan Landfill. Riverton. Bluffdale. .900 West. 700 East, 1300 East. What the hell's with this numbering system? Like, what's that? Where's the rhyme or reason to any of this? Okay, 3200, 2700, 4800. .700 East, 600 South. .27 miles. 48.55, not bad. And now I have a feeling we are in Japan. I mean, it could be Taiwan, but my feeling is Japan. Chui. Okay, that's another indication that it's Japan. Okay. Nice to see us being dropped someplace with some lovely traditional architecture compared to the places they usually drop us, which just sort of boxy post-war construction. Yes, Japan. A1 プリス. Uiwa Tokeitan. Uiwa Watch Shop. And jewelry, apparently. Okay. Now we're on some kind of a main road. And there's works in progress. Watch out. Okay, Japan tends to be pretty good with the sign posting. Occupational Health Center. Let's all follow the road rules. I'm gonna stick to this one. That is just an advertisement for a shop, and one that has seen better days. The advertisement has, anyway, because that was like barely legible, except for the word Schulta, which means shop. Toki Sharing. Ah, damn it. I didn't mean to do that. I want to stay someplace where I'm likely to get a route number. This is very pretty. Nice lake here. Nice area. Can't fault the location. Oh, it looks like there's a sign coming up. Let's hope it's a sign that actually is informative. Shirone Niida Tsubame. $153. Oh, that looks like it must be a prefectural route, which makes it a bit more complicated. Oh, what was it? 153. Shirone and Niida. Yeah, these are prefectural routes. Which means that unless you know what prefecture they're in, they're not very helpful. Lots. Gintoshi City. 交通安全宣言都市. It is a city that has signed the Traffic Safety Proclamation. Recycle. Auto scrapyard. Okay, we got another sign. 384 and 153, but they're prefectural routes, and I don't want to know what bloody prefecture it's in. Konakagawa. Hatsumi だ。全くもって聞いたことのないところだ。知らねえよ。一体どこなのか。佐藤シュタン。Hey, liquor store. Come on, give me a national route, please. どこかの国道を見せてくれ。 Fuso, Mitsubishi Fuso. Niigata! Niigata! Okay, that helps. Maebashi. Tsubame. Niigata. Nagaoka. 403. We're looking for Kendo. 153. I mean, where was Tsubata? Tsubame. Yeah, we passed Tsubame, so... Okay. .5 miles. 49.76, the last round. Okay, this looks like Britain. It's my immediate thought. Okay, it's left-hand traffic. Can't quite make that out. I mean, mostly at this point going on these pavements here, which are asphalted rather than concrete, which is a thing they do in Britain. Other aspects of this don't really convince me that it's Britain. So I haven't seen a street sign, and those are quite big in Britain. I mean, literally. They're large in size. And okay, this zebra crossing's wrong for Britain as well. Never seen that kind of marking before, actually. This be New Zealand, maybe? I mean, we're definitely in left-hand traffic here. That says give way. Okay, this... I mean, I guess Australia is an option, as is New Zealand. I thought I was moving towards the sign, instead I was moving into shitty resolution. Glendine School, Glendine Community. Fuck knows. I've never heard of Glendine. Okay. Yeah, this is in Britain. Glen Marine Parade. I think that's PDE. Is that parade? BKR. Yeah, that's imperfectly pixelated. I think that looks like an NZ Reg. So I do think we might, in fact, be in New Zealand. Glendine. Palm trees. Yeah, this is definitely. I'm pretty sure this is New Zealand, but it'd be nice to have something that I can work with. That bus might be something I can work with. Yeah, God, the bus is already gone. There's a sign just now that I can't seem to find now. Yeah, okay, and it's metric. Oh, hold on. NZ, Rex Davey. We're in New Zealand, that's what I thought. I'm guessing this is North Island. Stratford, Wellington. Lots of marine type names, which makes me think maybe coastal. Raglan, Hicks Bay. Oh, where do I? Hastings, Ramwana, Akitio. Clevedon. Well, let's see. There was a fair bit of... Well, the infrastructure looks very good. Yeah, it seems fairly densely populated. So the immediate vicinity of a major city seems plausible. Pont Chevalier, Glen Eden, Arafata, Waitakere, Riverhead, Odewa, let's try Wellington. See if anything near Wellington comes up. Newlands, Kandala, Nainai, Stokes Valley, Porirua, Trenton. Jock Atkins Waterfall, Otaki, Field Egg Colleton, Beaconsfield, Kimbleton. It's just in Kimbleton and in England. Last week sometime on here. Pocky, Roy's Hill, Crownthorpe, Clive, Eskdale, Glengarry. Where's Glen Ross then? Rabunga. Gisborne. Tauranga. Griffin. Hell. I think I could stare at this for quite some time. 106 miles, 4460 points. Not a bad way. Not a bad finish. 24,289 points. 121 XP. And I only need a little under 200 XP to level up again. And with that, I think I am done for the evening. All this sitting on this sofa has caused my ass to hurt quite a bit. So I think we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you for everyone who joined. And I'll be seeing you in a few days. And tomorrow I will be on the other channel, Hyper Polygliding with Elise, for Geoguessr in Spanish. Do try the Twitch as well, which is also just Hyper Polyglotting. But the thing is, I've been having trouble getting the Twitch stream to work, so you may end up on the YouTube. Either way, love to see you there. Have a